I'm incredibly lucky to be here today. 5 years ago, I was in a very different situation. Only a few centimeters separated me from certain death. In 2011, less than an hour away from here, I was standing to my knees in freezing cold water. I watched as the water turned red with the blood of my friends. They'd been murdered. The man that killed them then pointed his gun at me. His name was Anders Behring Breivik. Earlier that day, he had set off a bomb a couple of hundred meters from here. That bomb shattered the government headquarters and killed 8 people. Breivik then traveled to Utøya, where I was attending the summer camp of the Labour Youth Party. It was there he would kill 69 of my friends. The killings left me in a state of trauma, making me almost unable to function. But about a year later, I received an invitation to attend the Oslo Freedom Forum, and I felt an instant connection with the participants here. So many of them had overcome great obstacles and dealt with tragedy and suffering. From meeting them, I got new energy. I was inspired and empowered. And at the same time, at the Oslo Freedom Forum in 2012, the trial against Breivik was going on in the courthouse right behind here. And while the forum was going on, I was called into court to give evidence. Sitting in front of the judge, I recounted how, on that tiny little island, I for more than an hour did my best to save myself and 2 children I had found. They were 8 and 9 years old. The first one I picked up while running around the track that goes around the island. He was sitting there all by himself. He didn't know what to do, and people ran past him. I picked him up, and we hid together for a while. He was in panic. He was crying out for his father. His father was a security guard on the island. And intellectually, I knew that his father would be one of the first people to confront the guy who was shooting. And indeed, it turned out his father was among the first people to get killed. I knew we couldn't move. I knew we couldn't go looking for his father. We heard the constant sound of gunshots. And we were hiding for a long time, not knowing what was going on, except from what we could hear. Then, through the woods came a group of people running, and the gunshots got closer. And in that group was another child. I took the 2 kids and ran with them along the track that goes around the island again. And on that track, there was a pile of dead bodies of friends who had been executed. In that pile, there was a cell phone, and it was ringing. And it hit me there and then that someone was trying to reach a loved one. Someone was freaking out about their child being in this horrible situation, and the child would never be able to pick up again. I blacked out for a while and ended up still keeping track of the kids and ran to the shore side, where Breivik came out from the woods behind us. He was wearing a police uniform, and he said he was a police officer and that they caught the bad guy. Then he lifted his gun and started shooting at us. I jumped out into the water. The kids followed me. I was wearing a woolen jumper at the time, so I sank, and then I stood up in the water, taking the sweater off, and saw Breivik take aim at me. He fired, and luckily he missed. I fell over in the water and found a way to hide along with the kids. The kids and I survived by coincidence. And I have chosen to honor my friends who were not so lucky by devoting my time to end extremist violence. I am committed to this mission. I've studied, I've read, I've written, and I've spoken in the media, in classrooms, and on stages like this. and I worked with troubled communities and with researchers. Among my closest friends and colleagues today are reformed extremists. People who better than anyone know the paths both in and out of violent extremism. Among the topics I work with is how our society may have created someone like Breivik, how the mind of an extremist work. Well, figuring out whether they are born this way or if they are transformed into killing machines by their surroundings. Big question is whether the process of this is the same in Syria and Iraq as it is here in the West. I don't know yet, but I do know for a fact that at the heart and root of this problem is a rejection of liberal democratic values. Breivik made that clear in his 1,000-page manifesto. On Utøya, Breivik saw himself as superior to us. To him, we were the enemy. To him, killing us was a political statement. He saw us as objects for his cause, and he denied our humanity. He valued his beliefs over our lives. He feared our ideas, and he hated our worldview. In his eyes, we were traitors to our race, and we were worthy of nothing but death. This is the ideology that unifies all violent extremists, whether they're Muslim, Christian, atheists, fascists, or communists. The ideology that some people, because they have different beliefs, must be killed. So how do we challenge this ideology? We do it by showing that we as human beings are all created equal, worthy of equal rights. We do it by standing together despite fundamental differences. We do it by creating a universal culture where human rights are central to the existence of every individual. According to a Pew Research survey, up to 14% of Muslims in Nigeria view ISIS favorably. In Turkey, a country that we consider to be our allies in the fight against ISIS, the favorability level is at 8%. These are disturbing numbers, right? It's, however, evident from the same numbers that extremists have less of a foothold in countries with more diversity, such as Lebanon. This shows that extremism is incapable of taking root where an informed citizenry has respect for the dignity of all people, regardless of color, religious beliefs, sexual orientation, and yes, political beliefs. There is a reason why extremist groups like the Nazis in the 1930s, ISIS, Hamas, and Hezbollah today dehumanizes Jews as monkeys, pigs, and rats. There is a reason why the government of Burma dehumanizes the Muslims of the Rohingya community. It's easier to encourage the killing of another if you first create the idea that they are less than human, that they are less worthy of life. That is why Gaddafi called every opponent a stray dog, and it's why the Cuban government calls those who oppose the dictatorship worms and insects. So the security forces have no hesitation in imprisoning and hurting those who oppose them. It gets even easier to encourage murder if you also preach that it's either us or them. Either we kill or we get killed. Extremists don't think what they do is criminal. They think it's for the greater good. They kill not only because they are vicious, but because they think they are right. And they kill for a misguided sense of self-preservation. If you speak up against the ideals and ideas of extremists, you're seen as a traitor. In the eyes of extremists, you're often worse when you're opposing them or saying they're wrong. You're often seen as worse than those they see to be their actual enemies. That is why Breivik targeted me. And that is basically used to excuse censorship and opinion, and in far too many cases, the murder of those who promote equality. The ideas of extremists have consequences, and we must combat the language of dehumanization with a language that disarms. But we won't end extremism through language alone. We need to do it through practice, through politics and law. We need a separate law from religion, and we need a separate law from hate and ideologies of superiority. And like I've been inspired and empowered through my 5 years attending this forum, we need to empower other individuals to speak up, to take charge of their own lives, rather than falling into patterns predetermined by their surroundings and circumstances. That's exactly what this forum is about for me. When extremists wish to degrade us, they call us hedonists. They say our values are founded in selfishness, that our lives are all about pleasure, whereas their way demands self-sacrifice and meaningful struggle. This couldn't be further from the truth. In reality, extremists are driven by fear, desire, and temptation. They seek glory and they seek personal pleasure in the disguise of a higher cause. Their solution, to kill and oppress, is easy and not at all heroic. They kill those who dare challenge their worldview, those they disagree with, those they see as threats. This is a strategy aiming not only to silence any dissenting opinion, but to build fanatic conformity. To them, it's easier to kill someone than to debate. But if you have to kill your opponent in order to get people to agree with you, your point can't be very good in the first place. For extremists, freedom as we know it is unbearable because freedom opens the door for the rejection of their worldview. We have, as of late, been hesitant to state the obvious empirical fact that democratic liberal values, with all the freedoms and diversity that entails, is the best available option to preserve human dignity. We know that liberty only exists for any of us when it applies to all of us, even to those who have killed, and even to Breivik. A testimony to the strength of liberal democracy is the fact that even Breivik got his day in court, a court ensuring even the dignity of the least dignified member of our society. Liberty, freedom, and equality as a rallying cry. This is our challenge, and this is a struggle that will define the coming century. Are we up to that challenge? I certainly hope so. Thank you very much.